Welcome to our second edition of Healthy Cooking for the Holidays. My name is Tia McKinney, and I'm Executive Director for the McKinney Foundation. And the McKinney Foundation is pleased to partner with the community and Lafayette Foods in helping you be healthy, wealthy, and wise. A little bit about the McKinney Foundation. We are a nonprofit based right here in Detroit, and our focus is on helping you to prepare healthy meals with simple substitution so that you and your family can live a sustainable, healthy life. And this issue is very important to us because obesity is a big issue. It's not only making our Detroiters sick, but it's also shortening your life. So we are so pleased that Lafayette Foods says, hold on, our community is too important to us, and we want to make sure they know about this issue and also how to create meals that are tasty but also good for you. So, without further ado, I want to introduce two people that are going to be helping to show you how they made them. This is Whitney Harrison. She's a health and wellness professional. And Chef Chris McClendon.
Compliments to the chef.
And without further ado, I'm going to let them talk about what they made today.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chef Chris McClendon. The first item that we made today, I know it's a little bit different on the board because I decided to go a different direction. Obviously, we're in Michigan. Michigan is known for their apples. So what I did was I'm looking around all of this beautiful produce, and I said, you know what? Let's throw some apples in that sweet potato soup. I think it'll give a nice tart flavor. Also add some nutritional value. And I think it'll be a great alternative, or maybe something that you guys aren't, necessarily as accustomed to having, and it'll be a good flavor component to add to the soup. Basically, it was pretty straightforward. It's a basic pureed soup. And any soup that you do, whether it's a pureed soup or a stock-driven soup, you want to do something like sweat your onions, sweat your garlic, apples. I have some, what I did was I peeled and diced sweet potatoes. I peeled and diced a yellow onion, peeled and diced 2 Granny Smith apples. You can kind of take that around. Very, very straightforward. Just a touch of olive oil in the bottom of the pan. The components in there, sweat it, which is to release the natural moisture inside of the particular vegetable. Then I added apple cider. That's another ingredient that a lot of people don't necessarily take into consideration when making any kind of soups or sauces. Apple cider obviously adds nutritional value, but it also is a much healthier alternative to adding the beef heavy sodium driven stocks and chicken stocks, veg stocks, because those a lot of those have monosodium glutamate, which is MSG for those that don't know the acronym. So I love making soups with pureed soups with apple cider. Apple cider, apple juice, orange juice. Depends on the soup. You can play with juices as well.
What about fruits?
You can play with fruits, which is what I did here with the apple. I saw anything that adds a different flavor component. So if you have something that is kind of on the more savory side, you can always add some sweet to it. In addition of apple, pear, pretty much anything you see in the produce department. Obviously, you can make a watermelon soup, but that's a completely different style of cooking. However, we're going to stick to more of the basic pureed, potato-driven soups. And it's very, very straightforward. As I stated before, I peeled and diced sweet potato. I peeled and diced onions, apples, just a touch of minced garlic, and the apple cider. And now what I did was simmer them all together to get it nice and tender. And once I got the sweet potatoes and the apples nice and tender, throw them in the blender, pureed them, chop some nice herbs. I got some rubbed sage in there. I got some fresh thyme in there. I got a little bit of rosemary in there. And there's very subtle hints of, because if you could taste it just right up front, you add too much. So you kind of want just a little bit, just kind of linger in the back. And it has good aromatics to the actual dish. As well as, you know, giving you a different, it's still holiday driven. You know, you got the rosemary and the thyme, which are very holiday fallish herbs. And I just kind of played around with it. No real plan of attack necessarily. I just knew that I wanted to make a flavorful soup with what they had in the store. So I kind of walked around, saw what they had, just assembled a nice tasty soup. Hope you guys enjoy it.
So just to let you know, everything that Chef used today can be found right here in Lafayette Foods.
Any questions? This here? This here's agave nectar. Agave nectar. I'll explain a little bit more about agave nectar in my next portion of this segment. The next thing that I'm going to actually go into, which is kind of a very good question, that segues me into my next item, is a corn griddle cake. The corn griddle cake that I made is a very simple, good alternative to the traditional cornbread that you have with your greens or your cornbread dressing that you have with your, you know, smothered turkey or what have you. Essentially what I did for that is I took cornmeal, I took this all-purpose flour here, which happens to be gluten-free. I decided to go the gluten-free route because I don't know if you guys have noticed the trend, or I don't necessarily know if you would call it a trend, but show of hands, how many of you know more gluten-free people than you've ever heard of in your life? Like all of a sudden everybody's gluten-free, and it's this huge thing, and this is more the last 10 years or so that we're discovering that a lot of people have allergies to gluten. And what I try to do with my cooking is give a wide variety of cooking techniques so that if you are a person that adopts the gluten-free diet, you can visit the McKinney Foundation website and say, hey, I need some gluten-free items and certain things pop up. But I also want it to be for the person that doesn't necessarily know whether they're gluten-free or not, but they want to have a healthier alternative because they don't want to develop an allergy. Or they don't want to be in the position to where, okay, now I have to only eat gluten-free. So what I try to do is, like I said, yes, sir.
If I chose gluten-free, what am I giving up? Am I giving up flavor? Am I giving up nutrition?
Not necessarily. Really, all gluten is a certain style or particular processing, the way that they process certain items. For example, this particular item, you find gluten in all-purpose flour. Whereas if you take something like a potato flour, obviously doesn't have gluten in it. It's not made from wheat. Wheat has gluten in it. So anything wheat-driven has gluten in it.
Okay.
So you have to stay away from anything wheat. Which is, and I know we've been taught that wheat is a great thing for us, and I'm not saying that wheat is bad for you. I'm saying that as it relates to wheat being the central protein that is needed to create gluten, because you develop gluten in wheat, which is how it becomes obviously gluten. So it's something that you should definitely read up on.
Yeah.
It's way too long for me to give you the explanation right now. However,
Wheat bread, don't eat the white bread.
I know that's what we've been taught. However, and I'm not saying there's anything necessarily wrong with wheat bread. But you know, that's a different conversation. Even the wheat bread that we eat most of the time is just white bread with brown food coloring. It's not really wheat bread, whole wheat bread.
But it's whole wheat bread.
Most whole wheat breads are very good. You know, it depends on the brand, depends on whether it's organic, whether it's very I always walk a fine line between having a diverse diet because really the way that the food industry is, it's very difficult to be 100% safe. You're gonna eat something that is gonna have some gluten in it or a little bit of this or a little bit of that. So as opposed to being this person that is completely overwhelmed and fearful that I can't eat this because this is gonna happen, if you adopt a well-balanced diet that includes a lot of plant-based nutrition, you shouldn't have to worry about that because your body is a very well self-sustaining machine that if you feed it the right things, it'll work all the little things out. But back to my griddle cake. Cornmeal, gluten-free flour, soy milk, agave nectar, baking powder, diced peppers, and also a little bit of frozen fresh corn. I decided not to put, and applesauce. Applesauce was my dense body for this particular dish. Obviously, when you make anything with egg in it, it adds the yolk and the whites make it expand and they give it a certain texture and body to anything that you make. And you'll see in different recipes for vegetarians and for vegans, anytime that there's eggs omitted, they always substitute it for applesauce because even though it doesn't necessarily have the same attributes as egg, it kind of mimics certain characteristics of it as in terms of keeping moisture in whatever you're making. So I add applesauce to that as well. And basically I took all my dry ingredients, all my wet ingredients. I sifted the flour, the cornmeal, and the baking powder together. I took my applesauce, my agave nectar, my diced peppers, my diced corn, mixed all those wet ingredients together. Mixed the wet with the dry. Non-stick spray, bottom of the pan, flip, in the oven to finish. Very straightforward. Actually, the griddle cakes should be coming very soon, and you guys can partake of those. And if you guys want to dip it in a little bit of your sweet potato soup, that'll be even better. You guys have any questions about the corn griddle cake?
Any questions? Hear about the week?
So a griddle cake is kind of like a crab cake. That's
Kind
how
of.
I'm imagining it.
Kind of. It will be more pancake-ish though.
Oh, okay.
More pancake.
What kind of oven, stove do you have there?
Well, this is just a what we like to call in this a ninja burner or a little portable burner. Has a
Okay.
little butane burner here.
Okay, see, that's now I can answer my question.
Yeah.
I notice you chefs, you guys always cook with fire.
Yes, sir.
But a lot of people, they don't have gas, they have electric stoves.
Yes.
How is that going to be different? How can we improvise? Or, what are we giving up? Or how do we compensate?
You know what? I don't think that there's and this is just my perspective as a chef. There's not a difference. Heat is heat.
Okay.
You don't necessarily need fire to create good flavor. Typically, we become more accustomed using fire because we're familiar with how it works. I know that if I'm sauteing something and I move it off of the flame here, it's going to be hot here and not so hot here. So if I'm trying to baste something, I can lean it like this and baste it, and it's not going to be hot over here. That's something I know as a chef. But it doesn't take away if I'm using a electric stove. I may not be able to do that same little trick with the sauce thing. However, you be able to slide it this way, use it. It's 6 to 1/2 dozen of another. There's actually a style of oven I call an induction burner. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but an induction burner is basically it looks just like this, but the top surface of it is glass, and you set a pan on it. It's cold. The pan's cold. The induction burner is cold. Touch this is cold. This is cold, right? If you turn this on 350, this pan is almost instantly at 350.
Okay.
Because the pan reacts with this surface and it creates this friction and this induction thing. I don't know the scientific explanation for it, but as soon as you put that in there, you turn it to 350, instantly, boom, heat. But here's the gotcha. If I take the pan off to touch it, it's still cool to the touch, but the pan is hot. Am I still able to cook in it? Absolutely. However, is it different from flame? Yeah, you have to cook over it a little bit differently, but in terms of compensation, I just say cook. You know, once you cook on it, you'll see what the different subtleties are. And you'll be able to make your adjustments accordingly. But it's not a big difference.
Organic is better.
If you can go organic, organic is always better. Absolutely. It's like obviously when you're not going organic, you have to deal with a lot of shortcut practices of certain food distributors and developers that use pesticides and germicides to actually preserve things, and usually organic items are a little bit safer from a lot of the extras, I like to say. But as long as you're eating vegetables, fruits and vegetables, that's a start. Start eating way more fruits and vegetables.
So this way,
Sorry?
organic or just
Fruits and vegetables in general. Once let's get beyond. For right now, I would love for us as people, as the Western diet philosophy, becoming way more meat driven and more vegetable plant-based driven. Because we've always been taught this size portion of meat, this size portion of vegetables, and a starch this big. When it's supposed to be the complete opposite, where vegetables is this big, starch is this big, and meat is this big. But we have certain things flipped, which is why we leave the nation in colon cancer and hypertension and diabetes and all of these different things, because our diet is completely out of whack. So let's start eating more vegetables, and we'll worry about the organic thing later. We need more vegetables in our diet.
So I'm curious to know also with the applesauce, if someone more was it applesauce that give it a different taste because of
In terms of flavor, it will, but I don't think it's too noticeable. I don't think that if you don't get the all-natural thing, you'll be missing out on something. However, if you buy the more all-natural organic, or if you make your own applesauce, the flavor will be a little bit more pronounced. However, you can still create good flavor with this $2 Mott's.
right?
That's a good substitute for sugar and coffee.
So any other questions?
It's real simple. I was telling her that agave, I use that in my coffee
Okay.
sometimes.
Okay. It's definitely a great
So that means
substitute
that your
to.
body can process that better than sugar.
Yes.
It's
It-
like honey, right?
Yeah, well, it's better than honey. It has the lowest glycemic index of any other sweetener on the planet, which basically means that when it enters your bloodstream, it doesn't spike your blood sugar. So if you're a person that is diabetic and you're worried about you eat a cookie, you gotta wonder if you're gonna have an episode. This won't do that to you.
You can put that in just about anything.
Anything.
Substitute the sugar.
And they have different varieties. They have light agave nectar, which is basically has a lighter flavor. They have amber, which this has a more pungent agave nectar. And it has a lot of different versatilities. You like it?
Yeah, that was actually.
I actually have some more coming out, so if you guys want to stick around for a few minutes, absolutely. The soup is good?
The soup, I never tasted anything like that before, but it was good.
Okay.
It was good. But the griddle cakes, front row.
Okay.
Yeah. All of it.
We also want to thank you for participating in conversation. I know you started off with asking a few questions, and then you as well, you asked quite a few questions,
Yes, sir.
and we appreciate
Thank you,
that.
sir. Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
So you have recipes online?
Yes, we will have Tina have them tonight. Whether I can't tell you when they'll actually be posted. However, you will have them ASAP.
Let me say this, since you're asking the question, once I have them, we'll be posting them next week. We have our newsletter. If you like what you're seeing, we have an evaluation sheet you'd like to fill out. And please put your email down so we can send you out the newsletter and also recipes online. Okay?
And where are the recipes first may be found online?
Our website is www.mckinneyfoundation.org. Our brochure with that. We also have a Facebook and our WordPress blog.
Check them. See if they done.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
All right. Right. Yes, sir.
How's it
I
going?
got you. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Chef.
Well, that's it's been real.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. This is our second segment for the Healthy Cooking for the Holidays. My name is Tia McKinney. I'm Executive Director for the McKinney Foundation. And this session is brought to you by Lafayette Foods. So next time you see the owners, please thank them because they care very much about the community and they care very much about their customers and want you guys to be very healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I'm going to introduce two very important people. We've got Whitney Harrison, health and wellness professional, and we've got Chef Chris McClendon. And they've been busy, so I'm going to let them talk about what they've been doing. Take it away.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, or all gentlemen and ladies. How are you? My name is Chef Chris McClendon. I'll be doing I will be explaining to you a little bit what I did with these two particular dishes. The first dish I did was oven roasted red skin potatoes with a garlic and rosemary essence. Okay. Now some of you may think like essence. What is that? You know, essentially essence, to make any kind of essence or oil, all you need to do is steep it like tea. So what I did was I took a clove of garlic, roasted it over, took it out of the skin, put it in the pot, put 1 cup of olive oil in it, brought it to a simmer, let it simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes or so. Let the garlic break down and become very soft. Drain off the oil. You have two things now. Now you have a roasted garlic that can be pureed into a paste, which is what I actually use for the turkey tenderloin. And you take the oil, put that to the side, and you toss the potatoes in that to actually make the garlic essence for the olive oil for the actual potatoes. And then I took a little bit of fresh rosemary, a little pepper, sea salt, roasted off red skin potatoes. Very straightforward, very easy, very clean, not complicated at all, super easy. I didn't, no Mrs. Dash, no Laurie's, no grabbing 30 different things out of the cabinet. Very straightforward. Salt, sea salt, black pepper, pepper and fresh herbs. Roast your potatoes, garlic essence, very easy, very tasty. Would you like to add anything in terms of like, you know, how healthy red skin potatoes are or something like that? Or any questions, you know, because she's a trainer, she may have questions from a trainer's perspective, so.
She's
She's a physical trainer.
Physical trainer.
Yeah.
That was pretty straightforward as well.
All right. Any questions?
That's fine.
Okay, did you guys enjoy everything? How was it?
Oh, it's great. Very tasty.
Design?
Very
How long
tasty.
did you roast the potatoes?
I roasted the potatoes for about, you know, not to sound any kind of crazy, but I'll tell you just like my culinary professor used to tell me, until it's done. And the reason why I say that is this, is because it cooks faster at 325 than it does at 375. Obviously, if you cook it at a very high temp, the chances of you burning the outside and the middle not being done are much higher. However, if you cook them at 350, it may take somewhere between 25, 30 minutes or so. If you cook it on 325, you may be looking at 45 minutes to an hour.
Like, would you slice them up, like quarter them or what?
I quarter them, yes sir.
Okay.
Depending on the size of the red skins, you can get, I think they have like a B size, they have larger size. If you get a very small one in half, you get a slightly larger one in quarters. You want to be around yay big, 1 bite size.
Did you put them in a pan and sear them?
No,
then
sir.
throw them?
No sir. Took them in a bowl, took my garlic essence oil, put it on the potatoes, toss, salt, pepper, chop, fresh rosemary, toss in a pan in the oven. Done.
Just drain the oil.
Yes.
So the best cooking time for the roasted potatoes would be 350. You said that's 355.
350.
350 would be better for cooking all the
Yeah,
way through.
you figure, well, they both will cook all the way through. One, it just take a little bit longer. I like for my particular potatoes to have a little bit of a browner exterior. So 350 is good for me. 350 for about 40 minutes, so 45 minutes. Just to do you right.
Now you say that olive the essence, what is that?
The garlic essence is it's just garlic. It's fresh garlic, fresh peeled garlic, steeped with olive oil. So olive oil in a pot, garlic cloves in there, turn it on low, let it simmer until the garlic gets soft. You turn it to a boil, you're gonna fry the garlic. You need to let it simmer on low for a really long time.
And I also like to add, as I said earlier, everything that he uses is from this market. So you can get all the ingredients right there.
All fresh. Yes, sir. Any other questions about the potatoes? Okay. Now that we got the potatoes out of the way, now we get to the meat. Very straightforward, extremely simplistic. Grab turkey tenderloins. I took my garlic that I remind you when I made the essence, I just poured the garlic oil off. Now I took the guts, that garlic that was left, that soft garlic, put it in my blender, pureed it to a paste. Took that paste, rubbed it on the turkey tenderloin. A little salt, a little pepper, roasted it in the oven. Or I put a little sear on it, much like you see here. Basically, what I do to get a sear on it, you can't go too high a temp, and you can't go too low. So this still needs a little bit more time. So I was actually just finishing this off for you guys, so you guys can see. Like right now, this is about the color you want right here. Let's stand it up a little bit more. This is the color you want right there. You can kind of tell right here on this part that it needs a little bit more time. You can tell by touch, by just looking at it that, you know, it's still a little bit pink in the middle. So what I did for this, like I said, I rubbed it down with the garlic, pureed garlic, a little salt, pepper, fresh herbs, put a nice little sear on it, put it in the pan, put it in the oven. Came back 15 minutes later, touched it. You want an internal temperature of about 165. If you have home thermometers at home, or you can just do what my mom used to do, cut it in half, put it in the middle of it. If it's not pink, it's ready. Very straightforward, very easy. But you want to get all of those herbs, and you don't want to let the herbs not be coated in some kind of moisture, because what will happen is the herbs will start to burn. You want all of that moisture to kind of all marry and mingle together.
You said 350 on the tenderloins for 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
So you can start to put it in the oven with potatoes in the last 20 minutes with potatoes?
There you go.
Okay.
Come out, they both done at the same time. Any questions about the turkey tenderloin?
Better in a convection oven or
Sorry?
convection oven, regular oven?
Regular conventional oven. If you have a conventional oven, I suggest 325 high fan. Because what essentially happens is when you have a convection oven, for those that don't know what a convection oven is, a convection oven is an oven that circulates air inside of the oven. So it works with things like roasting, because it creates like a very dry, intense heat. So if I was going to use a conventional oven, like I said, 325
Okay.
would be right. Right. Any other questions about this turkey tender?
Thank you, answer.
Thank you, sir.
Anything? Any questions? I'm sorry? It doesn't have to have garlic on it. You can actually put whatever you want to on it. You can put shallots. You can put caramelized onions. You can put no onions at all. You can just do chopped scallions once they're done. Chives. Just chopped herbs. No salt at all, just peppers.
You still do the essence, you still do the olive oil simmering
You don't?
thing?
No. You know, believe it or not, generally, when I make potatoes for myself at home, I try not to use any oil in my cooking at all. Whatever I can get away with. And so, for example, for potatoes like this, what I would do is I would take a pan much like this. I would chop some garlic. I would chop some onions. I chop some herbs, and I'd make like a vegetable broth. And I would let that simmer all together. I have the garlic and the herbs and everything in this pan. It'd be bubbling and simmering. And I would take something like a thickening agent, such as like arrowroot or cornstarch slurry. Have any of you used cornstarch slurry before? I add water to cornstarch, thicken salt, and gravy and stuff like that. So you take like cornstarch and water, you mix it together into like this very thin paste, and you add it to liquids and it thickens it. So I would take that brothy vegetable broth liquid with the herbs and garlic and onions in it, and I would thicken that slightly, and I would roast my potatoes with nothing on it. It would just be, I would actually dice them, I would wash them while they were wet, I would add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and toss those together, and I would bake those by themselves. And then once those are roasted, they're soft, I would pull those out and throw them in this like saucy, garlicky sauce I have going on here, and then I allow that to be like my fat.
Let me ask you something about the tenderloin.
Yes, sir.
You said how you marinate the tenderloin and everything.
Yes, sir.
If you didn't want to cook it right then, you can marinate and save it for the next day.
Absolutely.
Let it, all the juices soak in and everything.
Absolutely. So where I would stop at in terms of, if I'm understanding you correctly, I would puree my garlic. I would do my garlic puree. I would rub it down.
Right.
Or I would take the garlic puree, put it in the bag. I would take my tenderloins, put them in the bag, salt, pepper, herbs, and just rub them all in the bag together, throw them in the refrigerator, come back the next day.
Have you ever tried that with some ground up ginger? Just put it in there. Okay.
Ginger gives it more of an Asian flair.
Right.
So if I was making, like, if I was having this with maybe some saba noodles, maybe some stir-fried vegetables, maybe like miso soup or something like that, ginger, little orange zest,
Okay.
maybe a little bit of lemongrass in there.
Lemongrass?
Lemongrass.
Okay.
Lemongrass looks like a hard piece of scallion,
Right.
but if you take the middle out, it's like this very, it's a very strong yet mild lemon flavor. And you take that little grain out of it, dice it up, and it has a very, very strong, subtle lemon flavor. And I would put that in there. I would chop the lemongrass in there, ginger. I'd go cilantro. And I'd put all that together, let that marinate. Then I'd sear that and I'd slice it. You know, a little stir-fried rice or some saba noodles, and
Now, after we had ate all that, how would you work that off?
right.
Jim.
You have a book of recipes.
I'm sorry, sir.
You don't have to have a book.
Not yet. Not yet. It's coming, but not yet.
Do we necessarily have to go to the gym to work that out? Is it something we can do like right now if they want to do it this afternoon and they don't have a gym membership? Is there something that you can
Oh,
recommend?
there's a lot of different at-home workouts you can do. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't realize that they can use their closets or use their stairs in their apartment buildings and stuff like that instead of going to the gym. You don't always need a gym membership to be physically active. And maybe older individuals, can food, maybe weight training, especially if you're sedentary and you don't work out. So any little thing helps. So yeah, you can do squats on the couch, you can do step-ups with the chair, you can run up and down the stairs in your apartment building for cardio workout, push-ups, or if you can't get down on the floor, wall push-ups, use the wall. Simple things like that. With no membership, all at home.
Okay, all free. Okay, very cool.
We also want to say thank you for participating. You asked quite a few
I
questions.
got one last question.
Yes, sir.
I noticed you got just the standard olive oil. Olive oil can get kind of pricey. There's so many different ones. Which one do you recommend going with, or does it matter?
Well, that question is a little bit more elaborate than I have time for. However, I will say this: if you can get the highest quality of olive oil you can afford, and typically how olive oil works is that, obviously just imagine you take an olive, you put it in the press, you squeeze it, and the first squeeze is the purest form of it. That's the really rich, really dark, really pungent olive oil. This is like after they pressed it like 10 times, that last little squirt of olive oil. That's what this is. Extra virgin olive oil is like one of the first or second presses.
Gotcha.
That's really good stuff. So the higher quality olive oil you can get, the better. However, the least oil that you use in your diet, period, the better. Because I think a lot of times you think olive oil is something great, and it is the better of the oils. However, oil in general has an adverse effect on our bodies, on our cardiovascular, and any of you, if you don't believe me, I'll tell you what. You take a bottle of olive oil off the shelf, the finest quality you can find, and you take it tonight, you put it in your car, and you leave it overnight. The next day when you come back, it'll be gel-like. It'll seize up. That's what things do in your arteries and your, if certain oil, it's just a natural byproduct of oil. That's what it does. It clogs up, your...
But if you're using olive oil, you don't have to use, like, let's say with frying chicken, you don't need to drown the chicken in it. You have to use a little bit, right?
True.
When the olive oil, but the other oil you got.
True, but oil in general all has the same attributes. So it's like saying olive oil itself is a good thing to use. I'm not bashing olive oil. I do enjoy olive oil. But I don't want you to think, okay, so Chris said olive oil is cool, so I'm gonna eat olive oil on my salad. I'm gonna stir everything I cook with olive oil. I'm gonna put olive oil dressings on all my things, because oil in general isn't good for you. You can't have oil all the time.
Right.
So whenever you cannot eat oil at all, stay away from it. Which is why a lot of people go vegan and because it's not necessarily the texture of the meat, it's the fats in the meat that have an adverse effect on your body. Which is why vegans stay away from it, vegetarians stay away from it, because as much as we try to deny it, oil is what it is. It's oil. So, I guess that's the simplest way I can put it. However, like I said, as long as you're eating properly, I don't get hung up in this oil is better than this oil, and as long as you're eating a healthy amount of vegetables and you're living a primarily plant-based diet, your body will do the rest. If you give your body the tools, your body's an amazing organism. It'll do what it's supposed to do. It'll make sure you're healthy. But you have to provide the building blocks to fight off disease and to do these different things. And unless you add nutrition to your diet, you can stay away from olive oil all day long, but you can have the best olive oil in the world, you still gonna get sick. So,
Very well said.
very well. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Any more questions?
Anyone?
Very good. Thank you so very much.
Yes. Well,
Good.
it's been real.
As I said before, this is our second time here. Please thank Lafayette Foods, their owners, for liking the song. We are looking to come back. Actually, they're looking to book 5 additional sessions for next year.
Okay.
So stay tuned for when those are scheduled. And I would love it, the feedback on how it is. So we have evaluation for. It could also include, if you haven't already, include your email address. And then we'll put in our newsletter, we will also be ready.
She can be always.
You guys have a